Welcome to the Free Library of Philadelphia. I'm Andy Cahan, Director of Author Events. Tonight, we have a very special guest, someone that I've worked with for many, many years in the book world, and who has a habit of sending wonderful writers to the library. When I first met him, he was just a publicist, but today, Todd Doughty is the Senior Vice President and Deputy Publisher of Doubleday, one of the most storied houses in the business. When the World Health Organization named COVID-19 a global pandemic, Todd decided that he had to find a way to recognize the commonplace joys many of us take for granted. As a result, Todd wrote Little Pieces of Hope, a combination of thoughts, lists, illustrations, playlists, and exercises to remind readers of life's mundane and remarkable beauty. There's something here for everyone. The book is full of fun facts, cultural surprises, reminders of things forgotten, and Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm sure you can imagine why. One author writes, a small town boy turned big city seeker, Doughty's personal stories sprinkled throughout the book pack a wallop as they celebrate family ties, friendship, love, and grief. I loved it. That author happens to be Adriana Trigiani, who has been described by the New York Times as a comedy writer with a heart of gold. Trigiani is the best-selling author of 20 fiction and nonfiction books that have been published in 38 countries. She is also an award-winning filmmaker, playwright, and television writer and producer. And for all of you fans out there in the intertubes, her forthcoming novel, The Good Left Undone, will be released next April. We're going to try to get her to the library. Todd, Adriana, it's great to have you join us. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, we were talking before the show how much we love Philadelphia. Now,
absolutely.
Okay, so you're a longtime fan of Philly. I love Philly. What do you love about Philadelphia besides the library?
The library, I've actually been down for a few events. I was there with Pat Conroy, our mutual friend. I was there with Chuck Palahniuk and Ian McEwan, and it's a magical, beautiful building and place. And we've gone to Philly a bunch, Randy and I, a few times for Christmas, and it's such a beautiful city. We love the museums. People are so nice. It's gorgeous, the architecture. What about you?
Well, I have cousins.
Oh, I forgot. Right.
A lot of them, they're now very old. Some of them are my dad's, cousins, so they're my cousins. But my favorite was cousin Mary Mix-Up from Philly, and because she would mix up facts all the time. But if you had something wrong with you, they would then make it your nickname. So
I love that.
Her name was Mary Mix-Up. So I love Philadelphia because I remember visiting as a kid. My father's from Pennsylvania. So you and we're on the same vibrational wave with this. And, Todd, I can't stop smiling because Little Pieces of Hope not only gave me little pieces of hope, it gave me a big swath of pride that you wrote a book after years of representing all of us, and you still do, but you're also a deputy publisher. And I got a bunch of questions from readers already, that I'm so excited about. And we usually wait till the end. But this one has to do, I'm just going to steal one little nugget, one little piece, and ask you, this is a big question that came through. Where did you find the time to write a book? Because everybody has that dream, but you had a full-time job and you did it. Can you explain?
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you to Andy and the library for hosting me tonight. And thank you, my brilliant, smart, talented, wonderful, giving friend for doing this with me and giving up your evening. I thank you. So how did I do it? Well, it all started on Wednesday, March 11th, last year, 2020. It was the day that the WHO declared the pandemic, and I say that the blame for this can be laid squarely at the feet of our commuter train, Metro North, because I was on the train and it was a time when the world was rapidly changing in a scary way, and I thought, boom, I'm going to make a list of happy making things in a difficult world. And so I just started doing that on the train, and that first list is, everything from fat goldfish, New York City, any movie of Katharine Hepburn's, but especially her entrance in the Lion in Winter, from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Baisley Frankweiler, a really bad DJ at a wedding that becomes a really good DJ at a wedding. And it's all these different things that I love or have thought of that day, you know, that meant something to me.
It
in my
goes
life.
back a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
With you are somebody who doesn't miss a trick. And I always say this about writers. I can spot them, even if they haven't been published yet. They take in the environment around them. You don't miss anything. Part of that had to do with how you were keyed into taking care of authors, but it's also innate in you. You're a creative person.
You're very kind.
So making lists to me is the sign of somebody that wants to get things done. And you did get it done. I think it was part of the overall arc of this, but I want to just clue the readers in on every page is jam-packed. First of all, you know, Josie Portillo, her beautiful illustrations in here are just.
She is an amazing artist. She did all the art on the cover there. There are 30-something pieces throughout. Yeah.
Like it reminded me of the freshness of a book that was old when I was young called Taffy's Tips to Teens.
I don't know this.
Well, it would be like, this is why I fell into this, like just like a spoon and batter. I just went into it because Taffy's Tips to Teens, they drew the teenage girls and they drew us, you know, in these beautiful, whimsical line drawings. I mean, it reminds me of the old Harper's Bazaar when Vogue used to do them.
Sure.
Artful, artful, artful. And they used to draw like girls' heads and say, you can't wear your hair that way because the way your face is shaped. Okay, but in here are these incredible lists, but also within the list of things to see and do and observe and to pay attention to, you breathe these wonderful ideas about how to live that I think are profound. For example, things you might consider doing today. Make some finger puppets inspired by your favorite fairy tale and then put on a show.
Right?
No kids around or kids around, it doesn't matter, just do it. Google image search, Everglades and sunset. It's like you do the work for us, right? Dive into Garden and Gun's online celebration of Julia Reed's most popular columns, The Indelible Voice of Julia Reed. And it goes on from there. Music, food, ways to connect anew with people maybe that you haven't seen in a long time. But I found them so funny. And sometimes I tell you, I teared up a bit because you would put personal anecdotes throughout. Where did you get the idea to mirror what you were encouraging us to do with your own stories?
That's a really good question. You know, the things you might consider doing today, I did these sort of special lists, like that's one of them. I did things you might need to hear today, sayings that you might need to hear for a pick-me-up. But I think that it was Meg Letter, my Genius editor, who said to me, Genius, you need 50% new material, because I was like, we'll just take all the posts from Instagram and that's the book and there it is. And she said, no, a book is a different thing. It's a different living, or it's a different thing that, you know, has a different life. And so I went in and I added, I believe it was a total of 41 additional lists that never made it onto Instagram. So that's all new to the reader. And then I added 16 different essays, because Meg was like, you know, maybe you should take a little bit more time with one or two things and write about that, and, you know, pick something that you want. So I did that. You know, there's stuff in there on everything from Year in My Childhood, which is we both grew up in small towns. So there's an essay on small towns. There's an essay on Red Velvet Cake. There's an essay on living your life like Mary Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life. There's an essay on Taking the Leap, there's an essay on that painting, which is this Rousseau painting that I love in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And I don't know, it kind of grew from there. And the interesting thing about the lists are, I'm a pack rat, I save everything. Our apartment is full of books, and I've saved articles that I ripped out of magazines over the years. I've saved postcards of photographs and art that I love. And a lot of that kind of worked its way in. But then what also happened, because I sat down every night after we ate and watched Jeopardy and spent 90 minutes to 2 hours kind of curating all of these together. And so if I'd read something in the paper, you know, I try to cite the date of everything that I read article wise in the book. It worked its way in. But, you know, I think in this crazy, unprecedented time, it was a different way of noticing the things around you. It was a different way of interacting with the world. And, you know,
a different way of leading a creative life. I mean, the fact that, and I want everybody to pay attention because I'm going to make a list throughout the show tonight. Number one, start clipping. Because if you have a folder full of stuff, you are likely to return to it things you found inspirational, things of beauty that you want, or maybe music that you never listened to. There's a lot of that in the book.
There's 8 different mixtapes. Yeah.
I found it empowering as a creative person. And but Todd, you're hitting on something that's so essential here for everybody that's listening. You are creative. We are all creative. From the way we get up in the morning and dress, to what we eat, to what we choose to consume in terms of a book, we're creative. Do you think that your job, which requires you to read a lot, do you think that that helped over these 21 years for you to help you become a writer?
Yes, absolutely. I think that, well, you know, I come from a long line of readers. I know you do too. And, you know, my papa went down into the coal mine every day and took a book with him to read on his break. Uncle Dennis is a voracious reader of nonfiction and novels. My mom and stepdad are voracious readers and visit our library in Carterville. You know, my best friend's mom, Pam Finley, is a huge reader. Pat Bullard, I write about the teacher that changed my life in the book. Pat read to us in class. And so books have always been a part of my personal life and then professional life. Because in college, I worked as a bookstore manager. I was at Books A Million and I was at Walden Books. And then I worked at Walden Books in New York City on Wall Street for 3 years. And then my friend, Jerry Krasner, said to me, there is a publicity opening at Random House and you can talk to anybody and you love to read and I think you should go for it. Well, I didn't know what that was at all. And honestly, I got the job the year before I met you in 1998. And it opened the door to my professional life. And I like to say publicity is the caboose of the publishing train. Like, you know, the book is written, the jacket is designed, the interior is designed, it's copy edited, the galleys are made, and then we come in at the end, the publicity and marketing world. And so for people who see an author at a store or they go see you at one of your massive events on the road, or they see you on the Today Show or hear you on NPR or read about you in the paper or online, there's a publicist behind the scenes doing all of that. So I am a little book nerd from Southern Illinois, and this has become miraculously my professional life. I mean, I would have never guessed it. And now to have this happen and be on the other side of it.
Explain to everybody kind of how it works. People need to understand it's a very, although the publishing industry is always a steady business, always, because people read.
Yeah.
We took them to read, we like, 100 times more people, but we increased our readers by 30% during COVID.
That's right.
Okay, so let's explain to people, there were once when I started, there were 6 publishing houses. There had been 7, then it was 6, then it was 5. Now we're heading towards 4, aren't we? But within a publishing house are many, many, many imprints, which are like little houses within the big house, right?
Well, yeah, we met when you had Big Stone Gap, your first novel, come out, and we met actually in December of 1999. I will never forget it. We took the subway down to your house. You had baked all these chocolate chip cookies, and we stuffed them into these tins beautifully and sent them with your book, because it opens with Ave having coffee and chocolate chip cookies in the novel. And so we sent them to all of the media people, and then you and I became very fast friends after that. And, you know, I've spent the bulk of my career at Penguin Random House, at both Little Random, what we call it, and now Doubleday for the past 16 years.
And those are really famous imprints.
Yeah, and Doubleday will be 125 next year. I like to say that, you know, Jacqueline Onassis was my coworker there because she was an editor for so long, although we never overlapped. Mrs. Onassis is in the book a few times as well.
Yes, Mrs. Onassis is in the book.
She is.
Along with other like famous New Yorkers that you would see along the way.
Carly Simon is in there. I love her music. There's a specific song.
And, you know, I love that you cite her because her dad was Simon of Simon and Schuster.
Yes, publishing full circle right there.
Big circle. I mean, that's what I love about this book. There are so many circles and aha moments of, you know, Carrie Fisher, take your broken heart and make it into art. A lot of these are snappable for people to put on their phones and share with a friend, which I love.
Well, you know what hit me today?
What, dear?
The mixtapes are great. Those are all on Spotify if people want to listen. And my amazing colleague, Molly Fessenden, who does marketing at Penguin, she created a very specific little pieces of hope list too. So you can just click on it and listen. And, you know, the songs are really fun because, again, like I'd be in the car and hear a song and snap a picture of the radio screen just to make sure that it worked its way in there later. But, you know, the funny thing is I was thinking today, or I thought about this last night, I was thinking more about it today. The book can be read from front to back, absolutely. You know, there's a lot in there. There's over 3,000 happy making things individually, but it can also be thought of as a daily devotional of delight. So you can just dip in and dip out, you know, look at a page, get some inspiration. I hope that it brightens the day and lightens the load, you know, because this came about because of this unprecedented time. But everybody has an invisible bag of rocks they're carrying. A friend of mine once said, you don't know how much it weighs. You don't know how big it is. And whether it's a bad day or a tough time that you're going through, we all have those touchstones that get us through. You know, I write about a song, Alanis Morissette's You Ought to Know, which helped a lot of people, including me, in a breakup, you know. There are things that you turn to, again, for comfort. There's also stuff like memories. There's a special list about Thanksgiving, and I note like a pile of coats on the bed, the moment when the last guest finally arrives and it kind of begins. So I tried to be really, really specific so that when you read it, you can immediately see what I saw, and then we can have that connection. You know, I hope that either it sparks a memory or it sends you to Google or something to look up, you know, the article that I've mentioned or the song you've never heard. And then we have that connection.
I just love your observations. Here's a great one, small towns. An after supper trip to the Dairy Queen for a dilly bar, church on Wednesday night, Sunday morning, and Sunday evening. Now that's a big one in the small town that people don't know we went to church 3 times a week, and as Catholics, sometimes more. But Baptists and Methodists, and you were, you know, we always talk about this with your grandmother, you know, Pentecost, and you know,
Mimi.
Three nights a week. The great Mimi, she's with us tonight. I can feel her.
That's right.
Ball games. Friday night ball games. I can remember the chili dogs. I can remember they used to sell these cinnamon lollipops. I'm sure they did in Carterville, these square things on a stick. They were the best. School plays, packed to the rafters with everyone you know. Remember those? Or the town?
Oh, yes.
best. A casserole dropped off on a doorstep during a tough time with the owner's last name printed in block letters on masking tape stuck to the bottom of the dish.
You know what I mean? Like I can see it to this day.
To this day, and sometimes you couldn't get the dang tape off, and you just kept.
That's right.
Right, you kept the pan for the next thing. There is a rhythm to a small town. I mean, the beauty of your writing, I love it. There's a rhythm to a small town. The street grid might be smaller, but life happens just as fast and large and mercurial as anywhere else. Where I grew up, family, friends, kids, work, and church were the constants in life, as were holidays, the school calendar, and gossip. John Mellencamp croons about the epic scale of small town life, and he's right. And it goes from there. It's so beautiful.
Thank you, Adriana.
You know what, Todd? I think you define the polarization in our culture right now, and you bridge the divide. You say, there is a tendency for some people to think of rural life as simple. It's not. It is complicated, wonderful, messy, and heightened. But isn't that just life? Geography can define one's character and accent, but the experiences of life, the little moments that add up and become your story, play out for all of us in the same way, no matter where you live. I mean, you just made the beautiful observation that we have more in common than we do differences.
Well, thank you for reading that. That really was very touching. And you and I are from very similar small towns. And I think too, you live in New York City. I lived in the city and just outside now. The funny thing is in New York, yes, it is a vast, big city, but your neighborhood is your small town. Your apartment building is your small town. You know, those sorts of things are the same, and that's what unites us. And I think, you know, it was a blessing for me to grow up in a small town. I remember when we filmed CBS Sunday Morning for you, and we drove down, or we flew down and then drove through the mountains into Big Stone Gap, and just to see it was incredible. And I thought, this is like Carterville, but you're in the mountains. You know, we shared that.
If somebody isn't cooking for you, you can't get something to eat. So I remember we were at a book signing, and it just kept going on because it was talking to every single person, which I love to do, and you do too. Now that you're an author, you're going to talk to every single person, and everybody will just wait. But I loved it because you just started eating the peanut butter balls. Now in Ohio, they're called Buckeyes. Philadelphia has a version of them. It's just that peanut butter ball dipped in chocolate. And the lady that made them that day, she used the paraffin so they'd be shiny. And I think your colon really took a hit.
That was the signing. I think
you came over and said, it's protein. It's peanut butter, so it's protein. I was like, uh-oh, good luck with that one.
I think you started that signing that day at like 5 o'clock, and we were done and at the Waffle House at like 2 o'clock in the morning, because the whole town came to support and see you, because that's what you do in a small town, you know? That was a magical trip.
We remember her, you know. I'm from a big family. You're from a big extended family too. You got a lot of people. I mean, your stepdad's family is like, they're epic. There's how many children did Mimi have?
Mimi had 11 in total, and Christmases were always these amazing Christmas Eves together with the whole family when we were kids, and it's such a big family. I mean, I can't remember. I believe there's something like, well, there are dozens of grandchildren, cousins, you know, and everybody, and it is the most wonderful thing. It was the most magical experience. I have here in the house, when I was little, we went to Granny and Pap's, Mimi's mom and dad's house for Christmas Eve. And my Aunt Patty sent me a photo years ago of the actual Christmas tree from when I was a kid, and I still have that here. That's the part of me that keeps everything. And I know you're a keeper too.
I know. And here's the thing, when you live in New York City, and we you know, we were just talking about how close Philly and New York are, people come into town all the time. So you would see people. It was a destination. And many times I went to lunch with your relatives.
You did many times.
Met and stuff. And just like you had just an intimate understanding of the small town experience and how important it was for everybody to stop and chat and listen. And how many times during COVID I went back in my memory to those times we were together on those trips.
Well, and I think that part of that escape part of it is kind of why I kept those lists going, because every night for that couple of hours that I was piecing these all together, it was sort of just kind of going down a rabbit hole of happiness. You know, that was sort of the happy place to be. And then to have it come together, you know, a book was never the goal from the beginning. It was only a few weeks into it that people started percolating and saying, you know, this could be a book. There's something here. And I thought maybe, and then Brittany Bloom from the book group, my amazing agent, came to me and she wanted to work and put this together. And then I was, you know, able to land at Penguin with Meg. And then, you know, Meg brought in Josie for all of the art, and Sabrina did all of the design and the interiors, and it just became this collaborative experience. So to know that it's out in the world now is just, I mean, it's just crazy.
Funny to know too is the you know, in music, that bass line. I mean, you even, Todd, I don't think you left any stone unturned in terms of our experiences of growing up in a family and doing things together. This was another favorite thing, road trips. We road tripped everywhere during my childhood and throughout college in various vehicles. Dad's van for summer trips to the beaches of Florida and South Carolina. That's where everybody in the Midwest would go. Or if you're from Big Stone Gap, you go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
We went to Myrtle Beach.
We love Myrtle Beach because there's stuff for kids to do there, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Jason Bradley's parents' car for high school spring break drives across the plains to the still snowy mountains of Colorado. Again, you point out that there weren't a lot of means, but you saw a lot as a kid. This is also the building block of a creative life. This that you saw things, that you went places, that you did things. And that was a big goal for our parents to give us those things.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really true. And now, you know, now we have the book and we can make our own, chart our own trips. A fall drive in my old Ford Escort. I mean, really, that's really just like a bicycle with carpeting.
It was red and the license plate was gimpy.
I love it. Fall drive in my old Ford Escort down to Metropolis, Illinois, back when the gambling riverboat left the dock and took a short trip down the Mississippi River. Road trips are full of promise. Again, the beauty of your prose. Your destination far out of reach, yet waiting, and the mileage accounted for. You've packed the snacks, possibly junk food you wouldn't normally eat. Hostess cupcakes, trail mix, Pringles. You packed the drinks, each person requesting their favorite Coke, Arizona iced tea, Gatorade. Games in the car at the ready for the long stretch of road ahead. Uno, Slug Bug, Candyland. Blankets and pillows piled high, arranged in every corner. Books and a flashlight prep for nighttime reading. Directions and driving slots and chosen seats planned. Mixtapes of playlists curated, or back in the day, finding a new radio station as the current one begins to crackle. Song static filled and lyrics jumbled as you hurtle forward. The idea that in a book right now, somebody remembers when radio stations went off the air.
Those were the days.
In Carterville, do you remember when like the local station shut down, you could get the New York stations?
I don't remember that, but I remember because I was a big Tonight Show fan and I loved Johnny Carson. He's in the book. And I remember after that, the TV would go off and it would be the rainbow patterns until the Farm Report came on in the next morning. But I remember that. I mean, we still have a landline here. I'm not giving that up.
It's a luxury. You
exactly.
But your mentions of Johnny Carson in the book, what I do now for my lunch hour, I try to take a little walk a little bit, but when I come back, because of you, because I read the ARE, because of you, I watch Johnny Carson on YouTube.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I especially love seeing like Jimmy Hampton, who I believe you met. Yes. And I believe like Dom DeLuise. Those are the ones I watch. Or Dean Martin. I always like to see him on them.
Well, and the book is filled with all different TV shows and movies and articles and books and
every aspect of pop culture and real culture.
Yeah.
We got to talk about this. Talk about social media, because we remember when there was no such thing, but now it is such an essential way to communicate. Can you speak to the good part of it and then the part that makes you sort of nervous?
You know, the good part of it, I think, is that it connects people. And what was really interesting about this whole time and doing these lists is like from even day one, friends and family started really commenting on things, and a couple of strangers commented. And then as I went along, it kept going. And I was doing these almost daily, and I've still continued. Like I even did one a couple days ago. You know, I just loved that interaction and that connection at a time of isolation. And I kind of think that could be a metaphor for life, even in this crazy time. So to me, it just became, it was on Instagram, and it just became this really sort of happy thing. I don't know how else to describe it. I was with Mary Laura Philpott last night, and she asked me, she said, if you had a bad day, did you ever just think of doing a book called Little Pieces of Nope? And I said, I thought that was funny. And I was like, no, because, you know, you don't want to stay in that space. You want it to be positive. So that's what I tried to be.
Well, but in the positivity is an artfulness. There's art in here. It's a beautiful read. Well, I talked about Taffy's Tips to Teens, but I even want to go deeper than that, to the books that we buy to fill up our senses and for us to be inspired to make our own lists. You really are great at that. And it made me go get a notebook and sort of go, okay, well, what am I?
I love that.
Which I think, you know, I'm hoping, and I want to plant the seed now, and I save this for tonight, is I'm hoping there's going to be a Little Pieces of Hope workbook, because we need it. Because sometimes, you know, you remember those, because I know you gave Mimi one back in the day. I think we talked about this. I gave my grandmother this, but grandmother remembers.
Yes.
I was born line. Now, we laugh about those things, but sometimes structure is what deters someone from being creative. Is they're not familiar with the structure. Can you speak to how you created, because there's a flow to this book, and there's the prose, of course, of your own stories, but there's a flow to the creative listing. There's always music, there's always theater, there's always a piece of art, there's always something scrumptious to eat.
Well, that was important to me, because I wanted it to be as expansive and universal as it could be. And I think what happened, like if you look at the list and then you look at the book as a whole, it seems scattershot, which it is. I like a sharp right turn and a sharp left turn, but then you'll start to see there are words that connect, or there are thoughts that connect, or there are groupings that connect. So it just became this kind of fun, wonderful puzzle piece of putting it all together. And what Meg was really instrumental.
The art help you. The art is so whimsical.
Yeah. That's Josie's drawing of the dinosaur scene in Bringing Up Baby when the dinosaur falls apart. That was one of the things that I love. I love that movie.
Katharine Hepburn right there.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do it. Here,
but it was all,
there it is.
Yeah. It was all sort of, I wanted it to feel like an experience. And so Meg and I were very deliberate about the rhythm of the book. When does the reader need a break? If you're reading it through, or you're reading parts of it, when does your eye need a break? We were very thoughtful about that. And I'm really proud of the gorgeous work that Josie and Sabrina did to make it into this little piece of art. It's an experience.
You haven't seen this in forever in a book. I don't think since, you know, I was a kid. But the beautiful way that the actual book, the actual prose is laid out and designed, and the whimsical way that certain, I think you did this probably to catch our eye. They're almost mirrored like things that emerge. Twister. I mean, you hear the word twister and everybody's got memories of that. I love this sentence, and I just think it's a beautiful sentence. A long, boozy lunch with old friends. I mean,
I tried to be as specific as possible.
A pandemonium of parrots.
That was fun.
Of magpies.
That was finding all the names of animal groupings, and I loved that. So I kept that going throughout too. But it was, you know, I feel like it was this experience of taking everything that you love and kind of corralling it into one place. And, you know, I said in the beginning of the book too, like, you may not love something that I love, so just cross it out and write your own. I mean, I love that idea of the workbook or your own list. And the other pie in the sky dream I have is a page day calendar. I always loved those as a kid, that just ripping it off. But you could have 4 or 5 things on there.
The local church did them. Remember those?
Yes. Yeah, and I would love to have that happen. And then the other pie in the sky, because it's in there and you know I'm a fan, is Hallmark movies and the Hallmark Channel. So Little Pieces of Hope Hallmark movie. I haven't figured that out yet, but that's on the horizon.
Are you going to create your own? Well, listen, I'm going to give you the Hallmark movies in a nutshell. New lady moves to town, bakes cookies, man smells the cookies, they kiss, the end.
It's my happy place. I love it.
My sisters are obsessed with them.
Oh, absolutely. Mimi loved them too.
Well, because they were clean.
And there's always like, it's the town coming together, and it's always set in a beautiful place, and somebody falls in love, the end.
I mean, it's great. That's what we think life is, right?
That's what we hope.
That's another little piece of hope.
There we go.
Okay, so I would like you to talk about an ode to hostess.
Absolutely. So
honey buns, fruit pies.
That essay is my love letter to hostess, because my dad has a grocery store, and when I was little and with him on the weekends, I would go some mornings with him, and I could always get whatever I wanted and eat it. So I would choose hostess every time. So that whole essay ranks them and what are my favorites from least to most. You know, that's in there. My love of red velvet cake is in there. That was the dessert that my grandma Peggy made for me every time I came home. She had a multiple layer red velvet cake that she made, and it's still my favorite dessert to this day.
Okay, this is incredible. For me, it was always the hostess cupcake for the win, perfectly proportioned, a decorative icing scallop on top. I've never heard of this, and I love it.
You can see this. You can see the swirl.
What it reminded me of is when they made us practice cursive.
Right.
Which they don't do anymore.
Well, and you have beautiful handwriting.
Yeah, I know, really. Just enough cream filling inside. It's right. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too little. It was just
Goldilocks, just right.
A spongy consistency that meshed with its hard chocolate topping. Come on.
Right?
The
you
best.
can taste it.
You can taste it. The little piece of cardboard underneath to keep the cupcake in place. It was a tray.
Remember the little white tray, and you peeled.
The best. That small piece of heaven and a small milk. Remember the little milks? Along with the latest People magazine. Listen, you were People magazine and Regis and Kathy Lee all the way.
All the way. And Dad would let me.
Perfect way to spend a Saturday morning. Yeah.
Dad would always let me take anything off the magazine rack and read it, and then he would usually buy me like whatever ones I wanted to take home. But I was a People magazine devotee, from the beginning. People's in the People magazine's cover story is in the book. The Vanity Fair questionnaire is in the book. The O magazine, What I Know for Sure, is in the book. Like all of those things that I loved.
Fantastic. Well, you know, now everybody can relate. So let's ask the viewers to jump in with questions.
Sure. Join us for Q&A.
Audience, join us for Q&A. Oh, okay. So your process, we covered that one. This is a great one. Somebody wants to ask me, where did Todd get this title?
Where did I get the title? Well, like I said, Happy Making Things in a Difficult World was in that post, but it was sort of long and unwieldy and felt more like a subtitle. And so we batted around a few ideas, and then in the desk right over there, there's all of my notes, the manuscripts that I printed out, and one of them, you know, is all pieced together, how Meg and I figured it out, the order and everything. And I think it just came to me one day, like these are little pieces of hope. That's what these are. And then it was just like, boom, that's it.
It's so great, Todd, because it's kind of in a weird way prescient. We just need a little teeny weeny pieces of hope.
There you go.
You know, it doesn't have to be anything big. It can be something that you know, something small, like the memory of a cupcake, which of course you and I could talk about food, which is what we do. We talk about food. Andy, you want to come back on? Do you have questions? There's Andy. Hey, yeah. Andy.
Here I come, surrounded by books. That was a lot of fun, but it's not over yet.
Yay!
Being from Philadelphia, I mean, Hostess, okay. We're Tasty Cake here. And
yes.
I don't know if it's a rivalry so much as just go up with.
What's your favorite Tasty Cake? Now you've got me intrigued because I remember Tasty Cake from my childhood.
I like the butterscotch crimpets. They're pretty classic.
My sister liked those peanut butter ones with the chocolate on them.
Oh yeah, the Tandy cakes. They're good too.
Cakes.
And the thing is, you can get an apple pie in a tray for, I don't know, it used to be 60 cents. It's probably $1 now, but anyway, Tasty Cakes. We'll have to send you some. Maybe we'll convert. So a bunch of questions here. Let's see. Oh, this one's easy. Lin-Manuel Miranda, please explain that. Not that you need to.
Super duper fan. He is one of the few Easter eggs that pop up recurringly in the book. So I mentioned, I think earlier, I did this all on my iPhone in notes, and I could look up and see if I had thought of something already or put in something already. But you know, his Good Morning, Good Night book, I love Hamilton. He pops up a couple times. The Addams Family pops up a couple times. Mrs. Onassis, my former Doughty colleague, pops up a few times. So there are a few in there, but I tried to be pretty strict about if there was a link, it had to be a different link. It couldn't just be the same thing. It couldn't be the same memory. It had to be different. And I'm pretty sure we caught all of them.
Okay. Yeah. No, nothing redundant there.
Try not to.
Yeah. I love that Charles Addams illustration. In fact, when I was reading the book, I ran to my shelf and I've got that. It's a Random House book, of course. It's that compendium with
yes,
like different illustrations. Philadelphia guy, I will say. I don't know if he liked Tasty Cakes, but probably.
Well, you know, we used to live in New Jersey in a town that he grew up in, and he walked by this one house that's this old Victorian that looks similarly to the actual house. And when you drive by it, it doesn't seem as big as it does in the show and the comics. But if you thought about it from the perspective of a child, it probably looked huge. So for those who don't know what that picture is, it's a group of carolers at the front door of the Addams Family house, and they're on the roof with a boiling something-filled kettle that they're getting ready to pour on it. And I don't know why, but it cracks me up.
They deserve it.
Maybe you're a little jokester. Maybe you're one of those people that likes to prank. You're a prankster.
That's my niece, Harper.
Let's see. When you're out and about with your partner and you or they mention something from one of your lists, do you say, that's in the book, or, oh yeah, I listed that?
I have done that before. The weird thing that I do that's related to that is if we're walking around our town, this is pre-COVID, of course, and I see somebody that I don't know, but I know that I've seen them, and it's because we commute at the same time. I'll say like, oh, that guy rides the train with me. I don't know why I do that, but I do that every time. But yes, there is a point now where I can remember things that are in the book, but then, you know, I was looking through it the other day and I was like, oh, right, that's in there. But like I said, there's over 3,000 things in there. So I tend to give myself a break if I don't remember exactly.
A lot to remember. Somebody asks, what are the playlists under on Spotify? Can't find them. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. There is the Penguin one is under Little Pieces of Hope, and I believe it's Penguin Books on Spotify. And then mine are under just my name on Spotify, and they're all individually there. I think I did 9 of them that are there.
Okay, let's see. From Essie Tabshaw, fun conversation.
Thank you.
It's one thing to be a list maker, but to create so many lists, how can you remember so much stuff?
Well, I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of stuff that I remembered or loved that I put in there, but also, you know, there was just stuff that I just kind of found on my own or stumbled upon, or you would see a photo in, you know, a magazine or on Instagram or something that kind of sparked it or led you to another thing. Or, you know, if there were artists that I liked, I would try to find other similar artists in that vein. And so it was just sort of one connecting the dot to another.
It definitely has a flow to it that seems more than like list making to me.
Exactly. I think that they're, I'm glad you're pointing that out, Andy. Even when Todd goes into think about this or try this or remember this, it's always triggered by the prose that flows through it. So some of the things that I read were the springboard for that made me think of this, or this made me think of that, or
I love that.
I love the shared experience of reading it, didn't you?
Yeah,
it was
talking to me. Yeah,
I love that thought, because I feel like that you have a connection. Either it sparks something that you remember, or it sends you looking for something you didn't know.
Well, to that point, somebody says, thanks for all the Madelines.
All the Madelines.
I think they mean the little thing that Proust ate and then
yes,
came back.
Yes.
The memory of the cookie.
Yeah,
that's
the
right.
cookie. The cookie.
About the cupcakes, yeah.
Cookies, cupcakes. There's a theme.
That was a very, I'm sorry, we are at the library. That was a very literary reference. And we were all like, Madeline, no, does he mean Madeline with 2 straight lines from the, you know, Bemmel and whatever? Yeah.
I love that though.
It's great.
This is from Mateo. Were there topics, items that didn't make it into the book because they were so specific to you, or better stated, not universal enough for your audience?
I don't remember that specifically. There may have been things that we cut for spacing or things like that. I do know when I was making the list of we picked like a number of like 30 original art pieces that Josie was so very kind to create for us. I do have a list of that. And there were a couple of things that I crossed off, like making lemonade out of lemons. I didn't know how we could visualize that, you know? So if I couldn't see it visually, I kind of crossed it off, and there were just a couple of those.
This one from LK, is this a project you'll continue? Any thoughts about spin-off books? Thank you. The workbook thing occurred to me too when I was looking at it. I thought, oh, this is easy pickings.
I would love to do that. I would love to, you know, so I turned the book in almost a year ago now. And like I said, I kept going. So there's still dozens of more posts after that. I didn't do the frequency every day. I took a little bit of a break here and there. But again, like I did one the day before yesterday that I put in there. Some things you might need to hear today.
Somebody here says, hostess with the mostest.
Exactly.
Moving on. I love the lists of mixtapes. I love the lists of mixtapes in Little Pieces of Hope. How did you decide what feelings, moments deserve songs versus a happy making list? That from Labria.
Hi, Labria. Thank you for joining tonight. I don't know. I think, you know, like there's one like songs for a slow dance. There's a holiday list. There's a quiet as study hall list. I think I just wanted, honestly, I just created kind of playlists for myself of what I thought I might want or need and wanted to share those with others. That was sort of really the genesis of that. Because there's so much music in the book, be it an album or tons of songs. And like Adri said, I tried to hit a song in each list or a song or two in each list every day.
Fun. This from Lisa. This is a total setup. Little Pieces of Hope would make a fantastic stocking stuffer. Is there a way to get copies to make them even more special? Todd, is there?
I'm sorry, repeat that last part.
Oh, is there a way to get signed copies to make them even more special?
There are, from our partner and bookseller tonight, Joseph Fox Books. And
actually, it's Uncle Bobby's. We switched.
I'm sorry. Oh, we switched. Sorry.
It's okay.
Apologies. Uncle Bobby's. There are signed book plates in the books tonight, so you can get a signed copy. And that would be a great gift. Thank you.
Let's see, this from Doris. How many books do you recommend in Little Pieces? I am determined to list them all and eventually read every one. Will I live long enough to accomplish this?
I don't remember off the top of my head how many books there are, but I can tell you one to start with, and it is right over our hostess's shoulder, Lucia Lucia, which is in the book, which is one of my favorites of Adri's 2020 titles. A beautiful novel set in 1950s New York in the fashion world, and one of my absolute favorites. And you should know that our author extraordinaire art directed that jacket herself. That is a photo she found and made that gorgeous cover. But speaking,
who edited it, Todd, that book?
Our dear friend Lee Boudreau.
Thank you, Lee, who looks like Sylvia Sidney.
And we were all together on that book. And I think that was your first book that hit the list out of the gate, if I remember, because I have a framed New York Times list.
Oh, Todd.
Hey, speaking of books, can you talk about your novel, The Good Left Undone, that I am reading and is wonderful?
Why would we take a moment for that during your show?
Because I want to hear you talk about it. Can you tell folks what it's about?
You know what? It does play into Little Pieces of Hope. Because
that's right.
Story of a woman who is near the end of her life, and she knows it. I mean, she looks good and she thinks she's going to go a while longer, but she's not, and she thinks she's done a terrible job as the matriarch. And so she's got to set the record straight. And so the story then takes you, she has a young granddaughter who's getting married and thinks, you know, if you get married, you're going to be happy, you know. And so it's a real, you know, it's based on a true story, and it's, I can't wait for you to read it. I think it's the best thing I've ever done.
I agree with you. And it spans what, 100 years?
Yeah, 100 years.
It's amazing.
It doesn't feel like it, does it, Todd? I don't think so.
No, page turner. And the interesting thing of what you have done is when you're there in the present, the past feels just as alive.
Great. Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
You'll be at the library next year.
Yeah, people will find out then.
That's right. Look at Andy. Andy's like, stick to the program. We're gonna get him.
No. We can talk about it.
He's like, you know, he's like, first of all, we did Hostess. We didn't do Tasty Cake. We didn't do Spelling Cake. We did that. Please stop talking about all these other books.
No, I'm gonna invite you. There's a space. Maybe we'll suspend COVID rules and just fill the place.
Yes.
This is a familiar name, Liz Fogarty. Do you think you would have written this if the pandemic had not happened?
Hi, my Liz. Thank you for coming tonight. Do I think if I would have written it? I don't know. I mean, that's a very good question because it literally was that first day. I think that day was either the day of or the day after the NBA had canceled the season and things started changing very rapidly. So I guess the lightning bolt just struck that day and that's how it came about. you know, and then again, like I just kept going. That was the other element, was just like, just keep going to that place every day.
Yeah, that's what surprises me, is the energy to get that done. Yeah, a lot of coffee, Coca-Cola. What's your secret?
Lots of coffee. Yeah, you did not have the gin and tonic until the list is done. So the motivation was to finish the list, and then you could celebrate with the cocktail.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's worth it then. No wonder. The book this is from Doris Larson. The book just came today, and I'm already amazed by the artists you have led me to. Thanks.
Okay. Hello, Mrs. Larson. Doris Larson was my second grade teacher in Carterville Elementary School, and I'm so happy that you are here tonight. We reconnected earlier this year over Facebook, and that is so great to hear. I love it. Thank you for coming.
That's pretty special.
She's on top of it. You even did this, you know, because she was your second grade teacher. I'm going to page 25 here. Joan Gans Cooney, Frank Oz, Jim Henson, Carol Spinney, the bouncy joy of Barbara Mandrell's recording of Sleeping Single in a Double Bed.
I love that song so much. Like, if you're having a bad day, put that on, or some Loretta Lynn, I Want You Out of My Head and Back in My Bed. It is the greatest. Those two songs are amazing.
Get out of
just
my
on a loop.
Into my car.
I love that song too.
It's another one. That's another list.
There we go.
Somebody else we both know, Kate Rundy. Has there been a specific happy making thing that you've heard feedback about from a reader that was especially meaningful to you?
Hi, my Kate. Thank you for coming tonight. Well, I think the thing that was the most striking to me was when the comments started coming in and people put their own things from their own lists in, and I was like, oh man, I wish I had thought of that, or oh, that's a good one. You know, like I didn't remember that, and it was a great communal experience. That kind of dialogue that's happening in real time. Does that make sense?
Yes. This is a perfect one. It's a perfectly symmetrical, wonderfully book-ending question for the evening.
Okay.
This is from Carrie Lasapio.
That's my sister-in-law.
All right. Hi, Carrie. How did you feel when you received the final copy of your book?
That's a very good question. I had a box shipped to me, and it was just one box, and I brought it upstairs, and I kind of just sat it there for a little bit, and I just kind of looked at it, and it had the shipping label from Penguin Random House on the side, and it notes how many books are in the carton, what the carton weighs, and then it had the title, and then it said author on it, and that was a cool moment, I have to say. To open it and see it there in its full burst of glory, it was really something special.
Exciting.
Nice. Well, it happened. We're here. It's great to see you. It's been a long time.
You too, Andy.
Good to meet you. We'll see you in Philly in April. Jamie Knapp will.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you for all you do at the library.
Thank you. You were the best host ever.
Oh, you guys were fantastic. It was a fun, like a family night.
Yay.
Well, you know, we added a few calories in tonight. What can we say?
Yeah, why not? That's what's supposed to happen. Todd, good night. Adriana, good night.
Bye. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Andy.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Adri. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.